Good morning and welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. I am Brigid Burke, and today's the 15th of February, 2025. It is Saturday. Here's our weather report. It is clouding up outside, but it was an absolutely gorgeous sunrise this morning. I mean, I opened up and it was just, the colors were just really, really vivid. It was like deep yellows and pinks and purples. And of course, the iPhone is crap, so it doesn't take very good pictures. It takes all of the pinks and it turns them orange, which is extremely annoying. But, so I end up having to kind of play around with the vibrance to get it to look anything like what I want it to look like. So anyway, I just wanted to to get started with that. Good morning. I do see there's some people who have joined. So today's what I wanted to talk about. I'm finding myself last night I had some really interesting dreams. Now, good morning, Sam. Okay, Sam, Kathleen, and no. I'm trying to see who this is. Oh, it's Sam. Okay, we got Sam, and then okay, Sam and Kathleen. Okay, I was trying to see if I missed another comment here because they just kind of jumped in all at once. Good morning. So good to see both of you on here. And yes, I love a good sunrise. It's just it's absolutely beautiful. So it's that's weird. Show and then hide. Okay. Sorry, this thing is with trying to figure out the showing things. And Alex is on. Good morning. Good to see you. Today is okay. This is going to be a tremendously busy weekend because I have the tarot workshop today at 11. A number of people joined last night. And Alistair, good morning. A number of people joined last night for the tarot workshop at 11 today. And so I have, so I'm going to be doing that workshop today. And we're going to, I'm going to play around with a couple of things. Mainly, that's a space for people who are new to tarot. I mean, people who are experienced can also join if they want to join in and talk about stuff. But typically, and you're seeing Alex there. But we are, there's going to be this class today, and then I have actually appointments this afternoon, and then tomorrow I'm completely booked back to back from 11 to 6 with appointments. So so tomorrow, I mean, now it's entirely possible. I don't know, maybe weather dependent. I'm not sure if anything will change with my 11 o'clock appointment, which usually it ends up being a long time. I usually book a long time for this client because usually we have a lot going on. And so it's, so we'll see what tomorrow is. But in any way, Sam and I were talking about the podcast that I'm going to be doing for my other channel, Titonia. And I think the podcast is going to have to be a little bit delayed. I'm probably going to end up recording it on Monday because I want to make sure I record it. There's just a lot of information, and I got Sam's email this morning, and I was like, okay, wow, there's a whole lot. And Suda, good morning, good to see you. I was looking at it and I was like, okay, there's a lot here, and I don't want to try to rush all of this at the end of today after I'm done with my readings. If I do, but even if I manage to make time this evening to get the podcast recorded, I still have to take the time to edit it. So I'm like, okay, Monday for Patreon and probably Tuesday, Wednesday-ish for everybody else. So if you're a Katonia watcher, subscriber, normally the new podcast comes out on Monday. It'll probably be Tuesday, Wednesday this week, just because there's a lot of information and I want to get it as organized correctly. Sometimes when there's a lot of information that I have on a particular figure, or there's a lot that I have to think about or call into the, put into the mix, then I want to, I tend to do things kind of off the top of my head. So as I'm going through it, I go, oh yeah, there's this. Oh, and by the way, I forgot about that. And then there's this thing. And I think that drives some people absolutely crazy. So I just try to have some level of organization when I'm sitting down and doing it. And also I just don't want to pressure myself because, I'm getting, I got to get, when I have clients in the house, I have to get the house straightened up. And, not that, truthfully, I don't know that they even necessarily care that much, but I just know, if I was going to a practitioner and I walked into a house that was I don't know, it looked dirty and that would kind of, I don't know how I would quite feel about that. So again, it's not like I have to, go over everything with a toothbrush, but I do want to get things straightened up. And what else did I? And yeah, and like I said, I've got a lot of appointments this weekend, which is great. I mean, the appointments are great. The stuff I'm working on is super interesting. I don't really have anything to complain about. It's great. There's a lot of good stuff. But I did have dreams last night. And I had a really weird dream about, because, okay, what I did for years, and some of you know this about me, I know Kathleen in particular knows this about me, is I was a professional cataloger for years. And the library catalogers, what they do is basically they create the records, they create the data that's put in your library catalog, your electronic catalog. Previously, they were the ones who typed the cards, right? And actually, not only typed the cards, but there's all kinds of terminology that goes with that. You create a main entry, and you create a main entry card, and then you create access point cards and things like that. And then, of course, now all this is on a single record. And now, of course, they're changing the way in which they do those single records. But in any case, it was when those changes started to come in, which I felt were a little on the sloppy side and harder to explain to people why we were doing it this way. I mean, the old system, I was like, okay, I taught it for years actually at Rutgers, because I'm like, okay, there is a logic to it. As annoying as these level of rules are, there's a logic to it. And good morning. So I did that for years, and I enjoyed doing that for years. So this was an interesting dream, because I had a dream that I was doing cataloging for a library, and there was a female like university librarian, and she's not the one that I used to work for. Okay. Who I'll be working for again, just to teach this one class that I'm doing. And she's a lovely person. There's I really like her a lot. But in this one, it was like I was doing my normal cataloging things, and this was like an archive that I was cataloging. Hang on one second here. Just want to get rid of that. That was weird. Okay. Trying to get back to comments here. Very, very weird what just went on there. So let's just go back. Okay. No, we want this. Anyway, some kind of weird thing with the comments going on here, and I can't see exactly what's going on. So anyway, I might not be able to see your comments going forward. I don't know what's happening with this. It's like trying to put me into some kind of a login thing, and I'm like, I don't know what this is about. Anyway, apologies if I can't see comments. I might have to go back and look at them afterwards. So yeah. So anyway, what was I saying? Yeah. So it was. So with the thing. Yeah. Okay. In this dream, I was working as a cataloger, and I was cataloging these archives, and when I was cataloging them, I had to right. Okay. I was doing my normal thing, and the female librarian in charge came up and said to me, she said, what do you, how'd you put it? She said, well, that I wasn't doing it fast enough, I guess, is kind of what it was. And and actually, believe it or not, I'm actually a really fast cataloger. So I was just kind of like, well, so because apparently she'd gotten some 20-year-old kid, and he did that entire room in like a few hours, or this part of the room. And I'm like, yeah, but he couldn't possibly have been doing it right. Or, how do you know he's choosing the correct things to like put together? And literally, I was told this to like 3 people, and they're like, well, no one cares. And I remember feeling very annoyed by that, because it's like, okay, this is an art, like doing this. But when I kind of woke up from that dream, it was like, okay, I feel like this is more of a dream about Virgo energy. And about, because Virgo energy is very, very strong in librarianship. Earth energy of any kind is very, Mercury and Earth usually together are usually a strong indicator. If you have Mercury like in the 10th or the 9th, or probably librarianship could be something that you do. But that aspect of doing things has to do with order and with organizing, right? So for me, I'm like, okay, this has to do with order and with organizing. So I just want to see if I can get rid of this. I'm trying to get back to comments, because I know that there probably are more comments, and this is extremely annoying. So I think I'd have to do, yeah, I don't know what's quite going on there. So Okay, anyway, I don't know. Apologies. It's like for some reason it's just knocked comments out entirely here. Trying to things that I've hit before, and now it's blocking comments. So that's kind of annoying to me. So anyway, there is okay. So what I got out of this dream was that, you know, I have certain ideas about order. I think it's kind of trying to pull down, because one of the things I think we have all been dealing with is okay, we have a South Node in Virgo right now collectively. And one of the things we have been dealing with is control and the way in which we need to let go of control of certain things. And when we're trying to let go of control of certain things, it's like we are, okay, it's almost like the universe is taking things that we think of as being kind of very ordinary or very normal or very much part of our routine. And it's almost like it's calling them into question. And so when I hear that, I'm like, okay, yeah, is there a lot of focus on how things are organized, or on how things look, and on how certain things are? And perhaps what we're looking at here is really the idea that, you know, we're looking at all of this, and then the question then becomes, you know, is this really necessary? Are the things that we feel we have to do things that we truly have to do? You know what I mean? What do we truly have to do? And for me, I think, okay, I had to look at where my Virgo was. And actually, it's good if people know kind of where that is in their own chart. Because this is connected with where we have experience, where we're familiar, where the past is, what we're already doing. You know, like where have we come from? What do we consider? What do we take for granted? Because this is just what we know. This is the people we know. This is the situations we know. This is the neighborhood we know. This is the family that we know. You know what I mean? There's a lot in that about familiarity. South Node always has to deal with where we've been. A lot of times if I see South Node in certain places, like in family houses and so forth, then oftentimes that's an indicator, or in the 7th house, it often indicates partners or family members who you've known before. I mean, assuming you believe in the idea of past lives, but these are people that you've known before. And we talk about that. Like sometimes you meet somebody and that person just feels really familiar to you and you don't really know why, right? There's a familiarity here that we don't see. So, you know, so anyway, it's interesting. So we have this sense of familiarity here, and you know, and what we're being called to do is to break away from that. And with the collective nodes being in Pisces Virgo right now, okay, there just seems to be a lot, because Virgo has a lot to do with the details. It has to do with being perfect. Virgos are known for being the sign of worrying. Okay, the 6th house is associated with Virgo, and that's associated with worry, and the way in which we can, the way in which our minds can analyze and overanalyze, because Virgo is very grounded and very practical. Every Virgo I have ever known, well, most of them anyway, have been very, you know, just very practical, very organized people. Like being in the presence of somebody like that makes you feel automatically grounded. Like this person, you know, is calm and has everything under control. Like there's always that kind of vibe when it comes to this. Okay. And but the side of Virgo, because like I said, all signs have more, you know, they have a spectrum of qualities, right? There's really positive ones, and then maybe there's not so positive ones. And one of the not so positive ones is, like I said, Virgos can be overly picky, over perfectionist. And I'm not saying if you are a Virgo that you're these things. It's just that these are the mix of qualities that can come in. So yeah, so we've got this thing. Now I had to look at where Virgo was in my chart, which is in the 4th house. That's in the house of family. And it occurred to me that I had a conversation with my mom the other day, and she had called me because we had snow, and she was like, oh, you know, it's like an inch of snow. And she's like, were you able to take care of the snow? I was like, yeah. It's an inch of snow. It's not that. I don't actually. I think with one of them, I didn't have to do anything. I woke up the next day, it was warm, and it all melted off. So, but she does that. She gets this kind of thing in her head. And I was talking to her because my sister had told her that I was going back to the university where I was a librarian to teach this one course, just for this term. And she said, she says to me, and this is what she says, I don't know, I didn't know you ever went to school for library. And I'm like, well, not only did I go to school for library, you paid for it, because that was one degree that she did pay for. It wasn't very expensive at the time that I went to school. This was like over 30 years ago. I mean, it wasn't, or maybe it was just about 30 years ago that I graduated, but it was not very expensive. And so she had paid for it at the time, because I was married then, and my husband was we were not in great shape financially for a lot of reasons, but I wanted to be able to move into librarianship, being from a library assistant to a librarian, because I wanted to be able to make the money. And and also my mom worked in libraries for like 35 years. Now, she was never a librarian. She was only sort of working in shelving and that kind of stuff. But that's just, that was just what she did. She did it as a side job, you know what I mean? And then she kind of became the supervisor and so on and so forth. And my mom is like that. She's very, very particular about how things are. Like, if she walks by and sees a book out of order, she has to kind of put it in order, And she and I are very much similar in that regard. Okay, we're very similar in that regard. When I used to work at the other university, if I was out like running the scanner for invoices that I was submitting, because I was the acquisitions library, head of acquisitions, and I always preferred to do the invoices myself, because there was a timing that had to be right on them. But anyway, so I'd be out there scanning them, and while I'm waiting for a thing to go, I'd be looking at the book stacks, and I would be like, oh my God, nobody's read these. And I'd stand there and I would be putting everything back. It's not my job, but I just was, it would drive me nuts to see that. So I'm a person who's always, that's like one of my things. I'm very much about order and putting things in order. I want people to be able to find stuff when they're looking for it. That's really what it comes down to. And to my mom's credit, when she actually did this in the library where she worked, like, you could find stuff. Like, the librarians never had problems finding anything. And then the users, as soon as my mom retired, they said, now you can't find anything. And it's almost like, well, is that, it's a shame, but is that a battle that we're going to fight in this day and age? When you talk about organizing the internet, I mean, good luck. I mean, you can't, I think that's where a lot of librarians just gave up, who are doing a lot of the organizing, and kind of like, that's where crowdsourcing came in. We're going to let everybody else do it. I'm like, well, that's a disaster. But I think the point is being like, that's where my Virgo is. That's where you have to break and just say, look, how much does it mean to you to maintain such a rigid control over where everything is, and what everybody's doing. And I feel like that connects into a lot of family karma and stuff that's going on with my mom and so forth. So it's weird, because the library thing, I guess, ends up being really connected to my mom. And there's a lot of, disentangling of ties when it comes to my mom, at least karmically, we'll say. I'll use that word rather loosely. But yeah, that's the way she tends to be. She's not only that way about her work, which was one area, and that's why I thought it was so weird when she said, I didn't remember you went to lab. Like, this is literally the only thing we have to talk about that we agree on. It was literally the only topic of conversation that was safe between the two of us, because it was something she could talk to about certain aspects of it with authority, and so could I, and we could meet at that level. And now she doesn't ever remember that I had anything to do with it. Now, yeah, I mean, people say, well, that's kind of sad. She's getting older, and yeah, my cousin went to go visit her the other day, had driven down and went to go visit her, and sent me a photo of her with my mom. And I looked at my mom and I was like, oh God, I mean, I don't know. She doesn't look well. Let's put it that way. So anyway, yeah, there just seems to be, I don't know if it has specifically to do with that, but I did feel like, more collectively speaking, we keep going back to this Virgo energy, but that's the energy I think that holds us in place, in the sense that, or it can hold us in place. As I said, it can be that fertile ground that we can explore. We talked about that yesterday. But Virgo also can be that energy where we have a routine, because it is also, sixth house is also the house of our routine. The routine that we feel safe in and that we don't want to let go of. Okay. So it's like the safe and unnatural routine. You know what I mean? Yeah, and actually, that is one of the cards in here. I believe actually it's the Nine of Wands in the Osho Zen deck. Talks about that, the safe and unnatural routine. The way in which we get caught up in something, and when we have to make a change, we're like, well, no, well, we can't change that piece because obviously I have to do that piece in that way, in that order. So it's almost like our ideas about order are being kind of like blown to crap. You know, it's like we're there. It's like being blown up. We are not, you know, not able to, you know, there's this whole, you know, we're not able to see beyond our idea of our ordering of things. You know, mentally, we all see things in very, very causal patterns, right? You know, this causes this. You know, if A happens, you know, the result is going to be B. You know, we kind of think in those terms. But as I've said before, there's really nothing. Even rationalist philosophers have proven that there's no reason why that has to be true. And there's been a lot in the readings that I've been doing collectively and individually about this kind of, like in the runes, it's this Perth energy that comes in. It's the unknowable coming into play. And, or Ansu's, which is your trickster energy. You know, it's this energy that, you know, there's going to be a plot twist. You know, you think you know how this is going to end, and you don't. I have a card in my own deck called A View from a Hill. And it kind of reminds me of that because it's almost like, it reminds me almost like Kabbalistically of Tiferet, like you're standing on the mountaintop and you're looking down. And from the mountaintop, in theory, you're able to have a nice broad view, right? You can see everything, but you can't see the details down in the trees. You can't see you might not be able to see what's going on, you know, in the little corners that maybe are hidden in shadow. Or something like that. You may still not be able to see those things. So if you take that viewpoint and say, oh, I can see the path, it's this way. And then you follow that path. And then as you follow the path, you know, you realize that maybe it doesn't go quite the way it appeared to be, even from the broader view. So if you've walked a labyrinth, you'll know this too. If you ever do a labyrinth walk, that's the same thing. It's like you go in, and the way that the path moves through a labyrinth, it seems like literally walk in, it feels like you're almost right at the center, right? You just kind of walk in and it's like there. But what happens? The path turns this way. And the next thing you know, you're going all the way around and in all these other spaces, and you're far away from where the center is. And then it's when you're all the way out here that all of a sudden you're back in the center. If I have another example coming to my mind. I'm just full of examples today. I remember it was a PhD comics, I think, where they were saying, this is how everyone thinks their doctorate's going to go. Like, you know, oh, I'm going to, you know, take this course, and then I'm going to have this topic and develop this prospectus, and I'm going to get this team of advisors, and then I'm going to work on chapter 1, and I'm going to get my feedback on chapter 1, and you're going to go back, you know, this kind of back and, you know, this idea of, it's going to go in a nice, neat, and orderly fashion. And by date X, I will have all of this completed, right? And the reality of it, they showed just like, because they were showing like this kind of nice little straight line. Then it was like, you know, up and down and then backwards. And we've probably seen other examples of this having to do just with life in general, right? Yet nothing goes in the order that you think it does, because you have to factor in people. You have to factor in events that happen that you are not expecting. Life is basically something that is unexpected. Everything is, I think this is why we are kind of being pushed by the guides to kind of look at everything with the eyes of children, because it's like, you know, you really, you try to organize everything as if you know how it's all going to go, but you don't. And we are definitely astrologically in a time where everything, I mean, almost anything is game. And we can talk about the astrology. We can talk about the lineup of planets. We can talk about how absolutely mega intense March and April look, and then June, and then July. I mean, it's just intense right from March all the way to September. We are going to be going through, at least from an astrological perspective, a lot of upheaval. But the thing about going through all that upheaval is we don't really know what that means. You can watch astrologers on TV who will say, well, when this happened, like, okay, again, they're doing the causal thing. Oh, well, the last time Uranus was in Gemini, like, this is what happened. And a lot of good things didn't happen the last few times Uranus was in Gemini. But that's like a very revolutionary kind of energy. But but again, we don't know what that means for us, and we try to prepare and we try to plan for it because that's the way our minds work. We want to mitigate the risk of something by feeling what is the by knowing what the details are to some degree. And yeah, so I don't know. So it's I feel like this hyper focus on the South Node, this hyper focus on Virgo, is happening because it's trying to tell us that we need to kind of relax a little bit and be like, look, you're kind of on a ride right now. You're on the roller coaster. You're not going to be able to turn around and get off at this point, and you really just need to sit tight and see where you end up. You know what I mean? And it will probably be up and then down and then, but we're on it and there's no getting off of it at this point. We can't turn around and retroactively make everything the way that it was. And so I feel like almost that was the message. Like, don't, stop trying to continually do things in the old routine and the old way that you did them. And so this is going to mean something different for everybody. Obviously, we all have our own routines and that we feel, and again, the problem is that we feel comfortable with those routines. It's not necessarily that we feel bad about them, or we feel like they're a sense of duty, but we feel good about doing our duty. Do you ever do that? It's just kind of like, well, this is me going out every day, like making my sacrifice, right? I'm out doing the thing that, I'm supposed to do to show that I'm a good citizen and a good member of society and, contributing to the economy and whatever else. But the reality is, it's like, how much of that stuff is really as important as we think of it, and how much is tied to ego? How much of it is tied to our need to, because there's a lot that's going on with, and I don't know if this is why Leo energy comes up a lot, but like, what is real strength here? What is our need to be shown? What is our need to be shown? Our need to be seen by other people, our need to be validated by other people. That's the words I was looking for here. That's what I'm fishing for. Yeah, I mean, we're a lot of times we're looking for validation. We're looking for people to look at our work and say, what a good job you did, right? And it's not that anybody shouldn't feel proud of doing a good job. I mean, yeah, there will be people who will be supportive and say, hey, yay, this is great. And you may have other people who are critical of it, and other people maybe you don't care. And it's like, you have to be at the point where you're not doing the work because of the adulation. I'm going to go back to Alan Watts again. Alan Watts talking about the fact that when you, like if you're a musician, for example, or you're an artist, or a dancer, the whole point, you don't engage. If you're engaging in those things because you want recognition, because you want fame, like, all the guys I used to know in high school who were like, yeah, I picked up the guitar because I want to meet women, stuff like that. I've also heard of joining the secret society because I want to meet women. You hear all kinds of things that people think are going to make them look a certain way in their identity. And, it's not about identity. Or it's not, it can be part of our identity, but if that's the point of your doing it, then it's not okay. Best case scenario, it's still not going to feel the way it should feel. It's not going to give you the kind of satisfaction it would if you just were in it and allowed yourself to do it without a focus on those outcomes and on those results. We live in a society that tells us everything has to have a purpose, has to be outcome driven, right down to educational systems. I absolutely hate this stuff with K to 12 education, where they're like, oh, well, if you're going to add something to your lesson plan, you have to match it to a standard because everything has to be part of this. No, it doesn't. You can just do it just for the fuck of it. You do things as they come up, as they make sense. And there's that word serendipity. Serendipity is about the things that you discover by accident. You know, you were minding your own business doing something, and then something came up. A lot of times we talk about this in terms of being in bookstores or being in places where we can look at stuff. Like serendipity is almost like a type of synchronicity. You go in and you went in looking for this thing, but then you found this other thing. And oh, there's this other thing over here, and this other thing's really interesting. And maybe this is more what I'm looking for than that other thing that I thought I was looking for. You know what I mean? Serendipity says that there is a factor of the unexpected that takes us down another pathway that, you know, could be the more correct one, or the one that's more interesting, you know? So anyway, just some thoughts on that today. Let me just take a look at this. Yeah, I'm like just very annoyed with this because I can't see comments. And if I do the overlay where the comments show up, then I will actually, they're like this big. I'm not going to be able to read them. So it's, so anyway, apologies. I'm sure people are commenting and are asking me things. At the moment, I don't know, something got hit on Restream, speaking of unexpected things. And now I just literally can't see anything, and I don't know what it's asking me for. So, and I'm not interrupting myself for it. So I'll just have to go back and look at the comments on YouTube. Anyway, so let's do our reading for today, because we are at 8:01. Usually this is when I start my reading. That what we want? Yeah. Oh my goodness. Interesting. Okay. Yes. 100% everything I just said. Okay. We're going to start. Excuse me a moment. Knocking cards over. Okay. Our first card is the Creator. Okay. King of Wands. King of Wands. Sorry, I have this. Well, we all know usually when that happens, I feel like there's somebody else who's trying to say something. But when the Creator card comes up, yeah, this is the King of Wands. This is the energy of ambition. This is the energy of, you know, I have the tools and I'm going to do it. I'm going to accomplish the thing I want to accomplish, right? It's strong fire energy. It's the culmination of the fire suit, which is Wands. And the reason I was kind of laughing is because there are like 3 wand cards in a row here. It's all fire straight across. And yeah, so this is this energy that we have to create. This is the energy to do things. And in this particular deck, this reminds us that we're creators. It reminds us that to a certain degree, you know, now how we create our reality. And I think we have to be careful that this sometimes is interpreted as, oh, I can do anything I put my mind to. Your mind is very limited in what it can do. Okay. And if your mind tries too hard to take over the whole thing, then you just get overwhelmed, drained, and you give up. Or you stubbornly are determined to go down a particular path that maybe is not the right one if you would just like yield a little bit and let information come into you. Hence the reason that intuitive learning and so forth is important as developing our intellectual capacities. But the Creator is about, you know, what we're creating in this world, what we're bringing into form, right? And our inner feeling of which we're unaware is playfulness, right? This is the Page of Wands card. And is this the Page or is this the Knight? I can never remember which one it is in this deck. Either way, it's similar energy. I mean, playful. I feel like it's more like the Page energy because it's, you know, because it's the enthusiasm that you have when you come in and you're like, you know, I'm ready to get started. I'm ready to do the new thing. It's that high energy that we have at the beginning of something, before we've hit any obstacles, before we've hit the places where we have to be patient, or where the reality of the situation is that, you know, we might have to, I don't know, we might need more funds, we might need more, you know, whatever it is that we're trying to do. Might have to change jobs, might have to, you know, whatever it is we're trying to do. Playfulness is more about like viewing everything like from that more childlike point of view, which is play. Kind of matches the message I got from Azrael this morning. Like it was just like, you know, to be, he uses the word Saeed, which is wonder in the Enochian, and it's like, yeah, we want to be in that state of wonder, that's where you want to be. And that's what I associate with playfulness, like looking at the world like, wow, what a cool place, like, you know, and what a wondrous place. And looking at it more from that perspective than the tired, cynical, you know, everything sucks kind of way of looking at things. It's like looking at it with new eyes. How do we play with this energy when things are not going the way that they did before? How can I do something new, right? And the external feeling of which we're aware, yeah, we have this Eight of Wands energy. This is traveling. And the Eight of Wands, you've got to remember, is traveling is about, okay, in this particular deck, it has to do with things moving along without you having to plan too much, okay? That's literally the meaning of it in this deck. That you don't have to plan. You can just move and move and move, and you'll kind of be carried by the momentum. But the other aspect of this, I think, for people is that they may feel things are moving too fast, because Eight of Wands is very rapid energy, regardless of what deck. It's fast moving energy, and so yeah, it's almost like we're moving, we're on the move. Things are on the move. We're aware of this. We are consciously aware of this, and we are aware that we need to do something in this space. And unconsciously, yeah, I think we do want to have this level of play. You know, we do want to do something different. But we have this card. We have the past lives card. Okay, this is the moon. So the past lives card, again, that's South Node. What's familiar? You know, we are bogged down by our old experiences, what we knew before. We go back and we say, you know, the last time that I did this, this thing happened. So therefore, if I do it again, you know, the same thing is going to happen. And again, it depends on the situation, but it's saying we really need to think about things that we take for granted as the way things should be, and whether or not we need to rethink that. The past lives card said a lot of this just comes out of our experiences of the past, of different time periods, different people, even within this lifetime. You don't believe in past lives, even within your own lifetime and within your family. A good example of this, okay, like if you're a university student, you ever have like the whole thing about the student loans and stuff. People were saying, well, you know, I had to pay my student loans. I paid my way through college. And I'm like, yeah, but when you went to college, it was like probably the same as me. It was like $60 a credit. Now it's like the same as what a graduate level course should be just to go to undergrad. You know, people graduate with, you know, tens of thousands of dollars in debt. And not because they have been, you know, not because they're being financially irresponsible. You know, it's just, this is what it costs now. So to say to, and, you know, and a lot of this is just because, again, there's a lot of public financing that's not available. So now universities charge more in tuition and fees and everything else. It becomes a very expensive venture. And also the difference probably between now and then is that in that day, nobody was expected to go to college either. That's the kind of the irony. You know, you think like if everybody had to go, it should be cheaper, right? But it's not how it works. So that's just an example. And, you know, where you're trying to look at a past situation and use that to judge the present. And you can't. The circumstances are different. The world we're living in is different. And yeah, so the ultimate outcome here is the letting go card. Okay, we have our Eight of Cups again. Letting go. And remember, Eight of Cups is not, that's the thing. It's letting go of stuff that has worked. It's not that the stuff is, it's not like, oh, you're letting go of something toxic. It's like you're letting go of something that worked, but it may not work in the future. This may not be part of where we're going with all of this, right? This is not where we're going. So yeah, so interesting. I have a couple other things here since we have a few minutes. Oh, this is interesting. Yeah, okay. I just grabbed a couple of runes. I grabbed Fehu, that's the first one. And Fehu is the rune of abundance, okay? So this is about what your definitions are of abundance. And that's really interesting because that's like second house energy. What do you value? With Venus going retrograde, definitely that's a consideration. Think about the things that you value. Generally a good omen for having abundance when this comes up. But it's about what does profit and gain mean in your life, okay, when we see this rune. And we have it with the Gaz, which turns everything upside down on its head. This is the rune of your life, the life taking a 180-degree turn, tilting the other way. So it basically, I read this as, you know, our values are being turned on their head, right? Our way of looking at things is being turned on its head. So we have to decide. I mean, again, there may be, I think I need to be careful not to talk about I think the cliche is don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. But don't, we don't want to get rid of the things that I feel are always there in the current, always there in the thread that should be there. I think it's a matter of figuring out what our values are. And if there's certain things that we do want to hang on to, there's certain values we do want to hang on to, how do we express or have those values in the current world that we're in? Okay, because if there's anything that's going on here, it's change, and there's a lot of change going on right now. So we are definitely in a space where we are not, things are just not going to be the same. So I think they're just trying to say, look, just be prepared to be flexible, be prepared to be adaptable. Don't feel like you have to be entrenched in the way that we were doing things before. And again, a lot of this may depend on where Virgo is in your chart. I'm just using myself as the 4th house example. A lot of that may be things that come out of family and what the unconscious expectations that are kind of wired in us from our family. Some of it could even be in your DNA. I mean, because they say that, for example, if you've had ancestors who had scarcity and, that anxiety of not having enough gets into the DNA. And so then later on, when even when generations later, if everybody's fine and everybody has enough and has enough money, there'll still always be this feeling somewhere that you don't have enough. There is suggestions that this is actually something coded into the DNA. So yeah. So anyway, just some things to think about there. I pulled a couple other cards from the essential oil deck. So we got spearmint. I haven't gotten this one in a while. Spearmint oil. And the key word here is conviction. The trigger statement is no one listens to me. The true statement is my voice is heard. Stand strong and communicate your message. The world is ready to receive what you have to share. Okay. So yeah, thinking about strength, thinking about redefining strength, what we value. Sometimes, I think especially for women, sometimes there's this sense that, or even things that we've been raised with as children. You may be raised with the whole children should be seen and not heard. Or if you are interested in something, or if part of your personality is something that other people are going to think is weird or whatever, which, it's a story of my life. But allowing your voice to be heard, not feeling like, oh, well, I better not say anything because people might not accept me. It's kind of like, no, have conviction in who you are, right? The next one is the geranium oil card, because it seems like 3 always want to pop out of this deck. The keyword here is nurturing. And the trigger statement is I'm all in my head. The true statement is I create with pleasure. We were just talking about this. Take time to rest, and in that time, be open to creative pursuits. Surround yourself with things that please your senses and be gentle with yourself. So there you go. Yeah. I don't know. I find that as I'm working at stuff, like if I have a list of things I need to get done because I have deadlines to meet, then all of a sudden, like just something will stop working. Like the plug will suddenly fall out of my modem because my modem is a piece of crap. And, and I don't even have to touch it. I remember that I had a day like that and I'm like, why is this thing like falling out over and over again? And finally, it was almost like somebody's trying to tell you, like, get off the computer, take a break, do something else, go for a walk, go do something, but don't keep doing that, So I don't know. Yeah, well, a lot of times we're in our heads. And this is where we kind of get into these loops of control and routine and things like that. So, yeah, like if you approach it every day, like, what are we going to play today? Kind of looking at it a little bit differently. And our last card is encouraging. Okay. I always wonder what oils these are. I think I've said this before. These must be oil blends of some kind, but I'm not exactly sure where she gets these from. But in any case, the keyword here is motivation. The trigger statement is I don't know where to start. And the key statement or true statement is I take action now. It says you will find clarity and the ability to create now. This is your time to make things happen. So yeah, this is it's time to make things happen. And yeah, and that's kind of the message I got this morning is like, starting somewhere. You need to start somewhere with where you want to go. The mind also can try to take in too much of the big picture, and we think we have to solve everything all in one go. And that's the other perfectionist thing. Like, I have to get all the details right. Like, people I know who, when they're writing books, are like, well, I have to get everything perfect in chapter 1 before I can move on to chapter 2. No, you don't. You just, keep going, and then, there will be there's always retrogrades, right? There's always an opportunity to go back and fix stuff. There's always an opportunity to go back and say, oh, maybe I want to do this differently. Don't feel like you can't make mistakes. So anyway, we're a quarter past. Thank you guys so much for joining me. Apologies because I've not been able to see the comments this time. Hopefully nothing explosive has gone on when I'm not looking. I will have to go back and check what the live stream says. But in any case, maybe not seeing those things helps keeping me from derailing from what I'm trying to talk about. So it should be better tomorrow. Everybody have a wonderful Saturday. Some of you I will see at the class at 11. And like I said, I have more appointments today and stuff. Podcast will be a little delayed. And just very busy for me this weekend. So I will catch up with everybody as soon as I can. Have a great day, and I'll